Hi everybody, this is Felicia. I am here today with a layout that I am doing with my using my Scraptastic kit, Cherry Pie. And what I decided to do with this kit was with these photos is mat them. Now I'm going to double mat these photos, and what I mean by that is I'm going to put the pattern paper under the photo first, and then I'm going to put a solid cardstock underneath the pattern paper, and that kind of gives it some life and kind of make the photo pop a little bit because of the background. Now that I've done that, you're going to see I'm going to end up what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up matting a lot of stuff with the black and outline it because it looks a lot better that way. So that's what you're going to end up seeing here with me do in a little bit because I decided to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to cut off these extra pieces. Now, what I do is I end up putting the photos down, and then I end up trying to figure out how I'm going to situate them on the paper, and it didn't work. It didn't work the way I wanted it to, and so I was kind of a little frustrated. So this layout took me a little bit longer than it should have. It should have took me a short period of time because I just had two photos and not a whole lot of embellishments, but unfortunately it took me longer than I wanted to. And so what I end up doing, which is what you're looking at right now, is I'm putting the pieces down and the layering down and all that stuff down, but I am not satisfied with how it looks because it seems like it's missing a little something. So what I end up doing is you'll see here in a minute, is I end up taking everything off and I end up using a bigger piece of these paper, the pattern paper that you see that I backed the photos up with. So I'm putting them down and I'm looking at it and going, there's something definitely missing. Now there's a lot of components to this layout once I figure out how I want it to look and once I figure out the pattern paper, putting that down. But I don't figure that out until after I try my best to put the embellishments down and put what I want to put down. And then what I end up doing is kind of sitting back and taking a look at it. And see, that's the one thing I can say is that if this happens to you, kind of step away from the layout for a little bit and then come back, because when you get a little frustrated because it's not turning out the way you want it to. I mean, see, right here is just a good example of my frustration right here, putting a piece of acetate behind a photo, which didn't even work. It wasn't even going to work. So I don't know why I did that. So what I did was I walked away and then I came back. And when I came back, I said, you know, it just needs more pattern paper. So here I am taking the rest of that pattern paper and putting it down here on the layout. So once I get this down and put it down here, then I kind of get an idea of what I'm going to do with the layout. But what I end up doing is I end up, like I said, matting a bunch of the pieces and the die cut pieces that I'm going to be putting on this layout. So also too, what I ended up doing is I ended up cutting a little too much of the black off, so I ended up having to get some more of that black cardstock, and you'll see me here in a little bit, and putting it beside on the other end there, because when I put it down, it still didn't look right, and so I realized that, oh, I got to put this down. So I end up getting the pattern, I mean not pattern, but the cardstock there, and you're going to see me do that. So if this ever happens to you, once again, you can do that as well. Now it doesn't make a huge difference, but it does make a difference when you put the layout on top of another solid piece of cardstock, because you'll see here in a minute, once I get that black down there, then you'll be able to see it. And then I still ended up with adding another little tiny piece here in the corner that you can see, just so that I could have that black outline on this pattern paper. So it all turned out right, and you really can't tell. You can't tell that I ended up doing that either. So now I'm going to start putting the embellishments down and all of the die cuts here. And I end up, like I said, matting a lot of the die cuts. And so you can see me here where I'm cutting some out, and I'm going to put it right on top. So that way all of the die cuts can have a black outline with the cardstock here. So that's what I'm going to do with all of the die cuts, and you'll see that right now. I'm cutting them out, so fussy cutting there, but getting it all done. And I end up, and it looks so much better. It really did. It really kind of made a difference for the layout here. So I'm going to put all of those pieces down. And once again, like I said, if you have frustrations or you're frustrated, just step away from the layout for a little bit and then come back, because you're going to see, whether it's 10, 15 minutes or even a day, it's always going to be there. So you don't have to necessarily do a layout in one sitting, which is a lot of times 50% of the time. That's how I do my layouts. I kind of figure out what I want, how I want it, and then I end up, and if it's not coming out the way I want, then I just step away from it and then come back. So I'm adding some of those tags, and those tags came from a Freckled Fawn kit there, as you can see that. And so I'm going to be doing that now. I'm going to talk about this photo because I know I haven't done that yet. I'm just kind of explaining why it took me so long to put this layout together. So we were driving from our annual training and we saw this thing look like something was burning. And so by the time we got up on it, we were looking for where the fire was coming from and we didn't see a fire. And so we're looking and we're looking and I'm like, wow. And it was a dirt tornado. That's what I called it. I said, oh my gosh, this is a dirt tornado. So what what it ended up being is a dirt devil. And it's the funniest thing because we were sitting there talking about it because my coworker looked it up on her phone while I was driving, and that's exactly what it was. It was a huge one though. This one was big. It looked like a big fat stack of just something burning, but it wasn't. It was actually the dirt devil. So, and then the funny thing about the whole thing is that once we figured out that that's what it was, we figured out, hey, wait a minute. Okay, and don't you guys laugh. Don't you dare laugh at this one, but we thought it was funny. We said maybe that's why they called the Tasmanian devil the Tasmanian devil off of Bugs Bunny. And so here we are, the two of us in this car on our way home, tired, cracking up, looking at this thing. And so we said, let's pull over and take a photo. So that's what ended up happening. I know it was just the craziest thing. And oh my gosh, I just thought it was funny. But because you ever see the Tasmanian devil in Bugs Bunny, he spins around in this tornado type of deal thing. And I figured, why do they call him the Tasmanian devil? But I guess whatever it is, they didn't want to call him the dirt devil. But it was the craziest thing. But that what that is called a dirt devil because it spins around in a vortex type of tornado. And hopefully you'll see it in the close-ups, and that's exactly what it does. And there's no fire involved or anything. It looks like a little tornado. So that's what the photos are, and that's what that's all about. So what I am doing right now is I got some of these black arrows and they're nice and sparkly. And those came from a Freckled Fawn kit. And I'm going to be using those for the first time and putting them down. They're real flat and they don't create a whole bunch of dimension, but they look really awesome once they're down because they're all nice and sparkly and glittery. And I also found that do not enter because that's how big that Dirt Devil was. It was a big one. It was bigger than the size of a car at the base. And so I can only imagine driving by that or that, just crossing the road. But, and as we went on through our trip there, oh, sorry about that, it cut off there. But like I was saying, as we went on throughout our trip, we saw smaller ones of the Dirt Devil there, but that they were nothing compared to this one. This one was humongous. And we were far enough away, but at the same time, we had to zoom in a little bit so you can actually get an idea of how big that baby was. It was huge. So that was my first time ever, seeing anything like that. We were in Oregon, actually, matter of fact, coming into California when we saw that. So, and Oregon's a little bit more, it's a lot more farmlands, I guess, up that way. But it was really interesting to see that. So, anyway, so back to here. So now as you can see, I have matted those little two pieces of pattern paper as well for the with the black cardstock. Ooh, I can't even talk here, guys. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so and now I'm going to be putting down these little shiny. I don't even know what they're called, but they're kind of like really shiny. They're not even bling. They're just look like little marbles, but they're flat on one side. It almost looks like enamel dots, but it's not quite. It looks really interesting. So I put some of those down at the top there. I've had those in my stash forever and a day, so I decided to go ahead and use those. And then I think I want to glue some more of these arrows down. So there was a couple more that I wanted to put on there, but I wasn't sure. So now I'm going to start working on my title, because our expression for this whole entire layout was, what is this? Or what is that? Because that's exactly what my response was. What is that? So that's what the title is. And I'm using some of these black alphas here from L Studio. And I can't figure out if this is L Studio or Ellie's. This is somebody, if they know what it is, please let me know, because I don't want to call it the wrong thing. But anyway, so I'm going to use some of these black alphas here to put that title down, and it's going at the top here. And I end up putting the title on a slight little slant. You'll see once I get it all down and everything, but it's just kind of, that was another thing. I was like, oh, brother. And so I just left it like that. I mean, it's not like people are going to look at your albums and go, oh, wow, look at that title. Oh, that's a terrible title. She slanted it. Look, it doesn't even make the layout look right because it's slanted. It's not like they're going to say that. Your family do not care. They just love the fact of looking at the pictures, and they really love looking at your work. So, I mean, they enjoy that. They're not going to sit there and scrutinize it and pick it apart. But I think what it is it's us as scrapbookers. We want everything to lay down on the paper perfect, and sometimes it doesn't do that all the time, and I'm really guilty of that. I'm going to tell you that right now. So it is what it is, you guys. If you make errors, if you make mistakes, it is what it is, because sometimes my whole entire layouts end up crooked. As a matter of fact, this one did a little bit anyway, so, but I just left it like that because I'm not going to go back and tear it apart or anything like that because it came out crooked. So, but there I go with another one of those black arrows. So I was able to put down about 4 of those black arrows, as you can see. And here I'm using some of the black doodlebug enamel dots. I don't have a whole lot of those, and so I kind of cherish and kind of hoard those a little tiny bit because those are one of my favorite enamel colors for enamel dots. That's why. All right, so I think I'm just about done with this layout here. I know I add some more enamel dots to kind of get that visual triangle there. And then I end up going ahead and just writing a little tiny bit about it because I told most of the story. And if anybody ever asked me, I could just say, oh yeah, that's a dirt devil. They're like, what is that? And then I go into explaining what it is, so I don't really mind. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so I decided to go ahead now and line it at the bottom and make an outline so that the middle of the layout does not look like it's floating. So that's a general thing that you can do. Really simple. It gives the layout a nice put together look all together, and it draws everything in within that square there. And so now I'm going to put down some of the Heidi Swap black this black mist there, but I forget what that color is called. So I think it's just called Black Velvet. I think that's what it is. So, and I think I'm just about done with this layout. So I want to thank you guys for watching, and I really want to say hello, my new subbies. Hello out there. And I want to thank you guys for subscribing. So take care, guys. Bye-bye.